Alrighty, hello everybody. This is Kirsho here, and whenever we last left off with this series, Midoriya, he has been in a bit of an accident. After witnessing two crooked cops beating a man down in an alleyway, he then ran into them again. They figured that he might be a bit of a loose end. So, they had a specialized man try and take Midoriya down. The man went on to beat Midoriya's mother and his father, shooting Midoriya's mother 3 times in the chest, and then shooting his dad 3 times in the head. The man then fired 3 bullets at Midoriya. One missed, one went into his shoulder, and the final bullet the man put directly right into his forehead. Now, the man then left, and surprise, surprise, the ambulance this boy was taken away in, they were kind of in shock. They thought that they only had bodies. Finding out that he was alive, they rushed him to the hospital, where they then began to get him into proper shape. Midoriya immediately being rushed into surgery, and then getting the bullet taken out. Now, along with that, he is at least seen as being in a coma. They are not too sure. His brain activity is very irregular. And, well, if he does wake up, it's going to be a long, long time. In fact, the doctors don't really think that there's ever going to be a chance that he'll wake up. He might just be catatonic like this for the rest of his life. Now, surprise, surprise. 1 week later, Midoriya is laying in bed, and he does actually open his eyes and go to get up, trying to move. As soon as he does try and stand on his feet, he immediately lurches forwards, and his hands smash into the wall. As he looks down at his arm and at what he's wearing, tearing the IV out of his wrist, and taking off the life support systems. As soon as it flatlines or there's no pulse, they immediately rush to Midoriya's room, seeing that he is over by the sink, basically just chugging water, and coughing quite a bit. Midoriya is trying to think about what just happened. All he remembers is being at home. Now he's here. As he turns off the sink and looks to his left, simply seeing the doctors and the nurses. Most of them with their jaws dropped, staring at Midoriya, to which he doesn't really have a way to respond to them, simply just asking them what. To which they try to give him an explanation. The young man has been through quite a lot. But does he remember anything about the explosion? As soon as Midoriya hears that word, explosion, it all races back into his head. He remembers a piece of shrapnel being launched in his chest, bringing his hand up to his rib, and then taking the gown off and at least looking at his shoulder. There is clearly something that's going to turn into a scar, a hole. So, that means that he does remember what happened. As he just says that there was an accident, someone tried to kill him, and they hurt his mom and his dad. Where are they? The doctor, yeah. He just simply doesn't say anything. As the Midoriya asks once again, where is his parents? To which the doctor simply just tells him that he's very sorry. But his parents did not make it. They died on scene, and they were able to recover their bodies. Only Midoriya survived, as the man does call the authorities, since Midoriya has just woken up. They are going to help Midoriya. Midoriya is going to be, well, taken in by a family friend, Mitsuki Bakugo and her husband. Now, Bakugo, he doesn't really think this is a good idea. He was actually a bit more surprised to hear Midoriya survived. Especially if Midoriya survived a gunshot to the head. That is some serious resistance. And Bakugo actually does have a little bit of respect for Midoriya. Yeah, he was a bit hard to kill. Normally that does kill people, right? Now, Bakugo does have a bit of respect for Midoriya. Midoriya doesn't really take a lot of people's shit in school. And even though people who try to mess with him, they promptly get knocked on their ass. Midoriya's dad was former military. A lot of people learned that the hard way. Whenever they tried messing with him, and he simply broke some of their teeth. Or at least broke something of theirs. Usually, whenever someone hates him, and they don't have a reason, Midoriya gives them a fucking reason. I guess that's the best way to say it. Now, Midoriya is eventually taken to the apartments by the police, where they do tell him that in a couple of days, or well, whenever he's comfortable, give them a call and that they will contact him, giving him a piece of paper with a case number, telling him that they're going to be looking into what happened to his parents. And hopefully, it will all be figured out. They will catch this guy. Now, Midoriya, he then opens the door, looking to see Mitsuki and Bakugo's dad. I'm trying to remember his name. Jesus. I don't think I've heard his name at all in the anime. I think I've only heard it once. Huh. Anyways. Now, Midoriya, he then just takes a step out and looks at these three. Mitsuki somewhat just apologizing to Midoriya and saying that she's very sorry for what he has gone through. To which Midoriya simply just walks past her. And Mr. Bakugo simply just tells her that the boy is probably still trying to process this information. So for right now, they should just leave him alone. Now, Midoriya, he does go back upstairs. As soon as he gets up there, he does see that, well, not only is his apartment taped off, but they've at least tried to rebuild some of the wall. It's mainly just made out of plywood, or, well, just 2x4s. Now, with that being said, he has then walked into their apartment, and sees that they've kind of already set up a bit of a room for him. Bakugo and him will be sharing a bit of a room for right now, since they do have to work on converting Mr. Bakugo's office into a spare room for Midoriya. He can simply just move part of it into the living room. Now, with that being said, Midoriya does actually walk into this room and see the bag that they have laid out for him. It has some clothes and, well, at least some family photos. Midoriya is simply just looking at these and getting a bit angry, as he simply just calls the police and tries to give information on the phone about what he remembers. And, surprise, surprise, roughly 2 weeks later, they find a guy that matches Midoriya's description. They find several, and the guy is put into a police lineup. Midoriya is picking out the men. As soon as he walked into the room, he already picked out the man. He was number 3, sitting next to the man with the weird quirk. And, well, wearing a trench coat. Now, this is whenever they do try and talk with Midoriya and try to get more information about him. Later on, roughly about a couple months later, or, well, not even a couple months. Let's say 2 months later, right before UA, there is a trial. Midoriya has still been keeping up on his physical activities and trying to get into other things to keep his mind off of them. However, he just heavily poured himself into his workouts. And he just got angrier and angrier. He got more and more rage. He told the cops that that guy was the one who attacked them. And they even have his quirk on file, the ability to create objects. That is enough proof for the explosion. That is enough proof for the bullets they could not trace. Yet they still want to find more evidence. He doesn't understand it. Now, eventually whenever this court case does come up, the man is ruled innocent, since there is not enough information for the cops to convict him. Midoriya getting angry and just yelling at the judge, screaming at him that that man murdered his mother and father. He saw him put 3 bullets into the back of his father's head, and 1 in his shoulder, yet he's ruling him innocent. Pointing directly at the judge and yelling at him right before he's taken away that he is fucking in bed with these assholes doing this. He is nothing more than a corrupt son of a bitch. Now, Midoriya is eventually thrown out of the courtroom, and the man simply talks with Midoriya outside, telling the kid that it should be no hard feelings, and that his boss has most of the city directly into his pockets, so there's not really anything you can do about it. Well, kid, I'm going to go get a drink. Have fun. The man simply walking away. Midoriya getting angry, but he just thinks for a minute. If he does something here, then he's basically committing assault, right in front of a courthouse. He can be arrested and put away. All because these corrupt bastards don't want to put away one of their own. Midoriya is getting angrier and angrier, thinking about what the man did. He smashed his father's head in a fridge. And he's pretty sure, from what he's seen, that he cracked his skull before he fired those shots. His father served his country, and they simply just turned their back on him, turned their back on his family. Midoriya simply letting the man walk away for a block before he does follow him, and the man does actually head to a nearby bar. Now, Midoriya, while he is staying with the Katskis or the Bakugos, he simply just begins to think. As one day, he does actually take the old key he has to his father's storage units, where they moved a majority of his dad's things. And he simply looks at a few of them. As he opens the unit, he could see that a lot of it might just be gathering dust. And his dad did at least keep a lot of his old stuff from his time in the military. As he does look through it, all the weapons his dad had at home are here in boxes, or at least in bags. And others, they seem to be here too. However, his dad probably did disassemble them for good reasons, since they probably need to be worked on. Now, he also does find his dad's old military K-bar. The thing is sturdy and has a good weight to it. Now, along with that, he does find some more gear. A tactical belt, a holster, and, well, an old jacket, along with a shirt. Now, this is all black clothing, as he does look at it for a minute. And he does actually swing the jacket around and put it on, and put his hands into the pockets to see if it actually does fit. As he does actually zip it up, he does feel something. Unzipping it and then looking inside the in pockets, as he pulls out a little notebook, looking at it for a second and being confused, as he opens it, and begins to sit down, stabbing the keyboard into a table and reading, as he sees what it says. It's talking about his time on deployment. His first deployment, he wrote a lot of things down. He wanted to simply know what it was like to have a clean shower, or a Hollywood shower as they call it, not simply a military one. He could really use the running water. Instead of the buckets, they just save up for a long amount of time. Besides, he also does actually want to be able to sleep somewhere where there is AC. That's one of the things he misses the most. Then there is food. Don't even get him started on that. Having to eat MREs is not fun. Especially whenever everyone simply just talks about how there's only 64 brands of them. He's guessing that's why Americans call the Marines crayon eaters, or the Army men. They make a lot of fun of these guys. Now, Midoriya just turn the page and read over the entire book. Around his father's first 4 years in deployment, he did do some things. And in fact, he does actually hear about how his father took a human life for the first time. His dad was not proud of himself. However, he had to do it to save one of his buddies who was shot. The man put a bullet directly between some man's eyes, and he saw red powder burst out of the back of the man's head. It was not easy, and it actually did keep him awake for a few days. Now, Midoriya begins to read over more things. His father's second deployment and his third deployment, along with how he was hit with an IED, and eventually had to come home, after punching somebody who was a higher ranking officer than him. Now, Midoriya does actually flip through and read more things, as his father has tallies on the back of the book. Midoriya read enough about it to know exactly how many of those tallies were people he had to kill. His father at least wanted to know his sins, so that he could live with them. However, some of these people, or a lot of them, did deserve it. And, well, he got the most kills out of every man in his unit. And a few of them actually nicknamed him something in particular. They called him the Punisher. Now, Midoriya actually does like that name, as he simply puts on a bit more gear, and decides to try it on, walking around and tightening the holsters and the belt to his size, along with actually unzipping the coat, and putting a gun inside of it, as he works on drawing the weapon, seeing which feels the most comfortable. Now, with that being said, Midoriya, he is ready. He is going to honor his mother and his father. He is going to kill everyone who is corrupt in the city, starting with that man. He is going to take his life first. Then he is going to try and do better. He's corkless. He can't be a hero. so he'll have to settle for the next best thing. He's going to have to be the Punisher. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And well, yeah,